And now let's transition to this next topic with head coaching in this whole personnel situation, because we can't give Ryan Pace a break here. Now, I know for a GM coming into the situation that he was with the Chicago Bears, obviously he was facing so many challenges because Phil Emery just totally blew it. He regressed this team even further on top of hiring Mark Trestman. I mean, they're still suffering from Dr. Death over here. So it's like, right now, okay, you can't really put it all on Ryan Pace, but he doesn't get a pass here either because of, obviously the draft picks right now haven't been, especially this last draft. I was really disappointed with the way the production has kind of put forth, from this draft class overall. But looking directly at John Fox, and I don't see any progression in year 2. Now, yes, I understand there's so many injuries on this squad, right? But how much is John Fox accountable for all of this? Because I think he's to blame for a lot of their struggles.
Yeah, I think that John Fox really isn't moving the team forward. But at the same time, I find it really difficult to put blame on any of the coaching staff when so many guys are hurt. Except for, of course, the people involved with training and involved with the health of the team.
What's going on with that? That's a problem.
It's been a problem for years for the Chicago Bears.
It seems like we have one of the worst training staffs as far as that's concerned.
So it's ridiculous in that sense. But yeah, I find it hard to blame those guys because you can't really say, when Kevin White gets himself injured one year and then gets himself injured in the next
4
year.
4 games in 2 years and 2 on a bad hamstring.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, should we have seen that coming? Should we have thought that was the thing? But you really didn't hear that injury is the concern with Kevin White coming into the draft. So that's just one of those unfortunate situations. I mean, it reminds me of the Jaguars when any first-round pick they take, it's hurt. But it's just one of those times where it's like, okay, I guess I can't really completely blame that. It's that I think has been the big thing that's kind of marred Ryan Pace's drafting, because I think if those guys were just there and just being average production for where they were at, I think people would be ranting and raving about how good he is as a GM for the Chicago Bears. Now he of course makes his moves. He says, I am going to go get a guy if I want the guy. I'm going to not make the move that maybe is the obvious pick. I'm going to take a guy like Kevin White, when, do we really need one? We have Alshon Jeffrey, things like that.
And we had Brandon Marshall at the time still. Right?
Was it? I think we got rid of
a different conversation.
beforehand.
Brandon Marshall was just a problem.
I know, but it's just, when we have
talent-wise,
when we have guys at the position and we're going to go ahead and do a flashy pick like that.
Well, they took a Jordan Howard, which turned out to be huge.
Yeah, but he wasn't an early pick.
No, right.
That's the thing is we're talking about the pick that should be the game changer for the franchise, that first rounder.
And that's why actually when it goes to this year's draft, I'm very interested to see what he does, if he does trade back or something.
That's a big one.
Right now, it's like you go quarterback early on, which I would 100% not blame the Chicago Bears for drafting a quarterback at number 1 overall, number 2 overall, number 3 overall.
I don't think I could blame him. I just don't love it, but at the same time, it's like it needs to be done.
You got to do it.
Exactly. It's what you got to do, and when else are you going to have the chance of either taking anybody or anybody minus that guy who got drafted right before you?
Yeah.
I don't blame him for that, but the problem is that there's so many pass rushers right at the top of the draft. And that is like the only thing the Chicago Bears don't need. I mean, the pass rush hasn't been great, but at least on paper, it's the only thing that's good.
Well, a lot of the time that's been plaguing them is injuries. And you look at them on paper, you have a really solid core of linebackers. Leonard Floyd was a kind of a stretch pick, but they saw something in him, his athleticism.
And it was starting to come out.
And it's starting to, yes, but then he almost got paralyzed, which was really scary. Yeah. But it seems like he's gonna be okay, and hopefully we see him on the field again soon. But, we look at this core, guys, and going back to Ryan Pace, I don't necessarily hate his free agent signings. I like the Pernell McPhee signing. I don't really like the way they kind of handled his injury last year. Why was he on the field when his knee was messed up and they were bad?
Completely agree.
So now he's suffering from it still. And then you have Danny Trevathan, who's hurt, out for the year. Hasn't really made much of an impact this year. They managed to keep Will Young, who's a game changer. We're gonna say goodbye to Lamar Houston. Eddie Goldman, he's a legit player, and I think he's a keystone kind of piece there in that defensive front.
Yeah.
And we could rave about this front seven as much as we want. And Akeem Hicks, another free agent signing that I really like to see. But at that number 2 pick, this is Ryan Pace's evaluation time, guys, because the honeymoon's over for him. And in his 3rd year, you got to hit on this draft. There's a lot of pressure on it, because right now, the Bears are supposed to be competitive in year 3 of John Fox. They're supposed to be.
No, it was
ideally we should have
year.
been Super Bowl.
This past year is Super Bowl year.
This year actually was kind of maybe not. Okay, I was optimistic.
Everyone was optimistic initially.
He goes to the Super Bowl his second year.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
I was saying 10-6. You know, they have a chance for a wild card, given the schedule and given the progression.
Talent on paper.
Absolutely, but then regression and this philosophy, John Fox. It seems like nobody's buying in anymore, guys. And it seems like and another thing too that really irks me about John Fox is he gives the media absolutely nothing, and the way he communicates about injuries in his roster, it's like, what is going on? We go back to the Kevin White thing. We talked about his injury history. In the offseason, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna monitor it, and then all of a sudden he's out for the year, and he needs surgery in his shin.
Yeah.
What? Kyle Fuller, another example. Scoping his knee.
Who's possibly coming back now.
Yeah,
they might bring him on the practice squad again.
Off the IR, which is, we're safe.
Hang on the practice squad for a little bit.
I don't know,
It's
Mark.
great.
I see your point about not wanting to blame him for what's happened this year because of asterisk injuries, but at the same time, it's your job to make whatever adjustments you need to help the team keep moving forward when that comes up.
It's not something you're going to necessarily hear much about.
Right.
But,
No one wants
do
to
I hear
defend
that
him.
team doctors are gone? The people that are doing the conditioning for our team, that are doing the health for our team.
We have those?
I hope those guys are gone.
2 top players, Freeman, another free agent signing who I like, PED, Alshon Jeffrey, who might be gone after the season, PED. These are 2 best players on each side of the ball, and both suspended for PEDs. Who's accountable? It's John Fox. It lies within John Fox, who hired the training staff that allowed them to take these prescriptions. My gosh. Like, what is happening? There's a fundamental problem throughout this entire organization for years, and it starts with ownership. The McCaskies are just
They're already notoriously cheap, and
they're
B,
incompetent.
poor owners. Yeah.
Straight up incompetent when it comes to evaluating football minds. You had Ted Phillips still having an impact on where this roster goes. Ted Phillips is an accountant since the 80s. He has it's just been like the people in charge of player personnel, going back to Phil Emery most recently. Jerry Angelo, reigned over the Bears for years, and they saw success under Lovie Smith in 2006, and then that was it, really. And you move on to Phil Emery, which was the absolute worst period of Chicago Bears football that I've lived through. My God.
It's pretty bad.
2 years of the worst defense in the history of football, really, under Mel Tucker. It's just, there's so much incompetence here. And how much do we blame right now on really the past draft, and how much do we look at really accountability-wise in terms of John Fox and Ryan Pace? That's the question, and that's the conversation we're having today. And it sucks because really, as Bears fans, nobody cares anymore, right? They're tuning out. And this has been kind of the philosophy for years. They haven't been relevant since, oh my gosh, it's been 3 or 4 years now.
I mean, 2010 was probably the last time
2010
anyone really
NFC
talked
Championship.
about them. Yeah.
2012, they were in a playoff hunt, went 10-6, missed it. 2013, 8-8, lost the last game of the year, and that was it. Since then, this Bears town has been dead.
You're absolutely right. It's kind of a disgrace, but the thing that I hate about it is that we're at a point where I feel like Bears fans just kind of throw up their hands like, this is what we expect. This is what the Bears are, just a factor of incompetence. Like, I don't know. I've talked, many of my Bears friends are like, no, this is the Bears. It's just what we are now. We're like, just, that notch at the bottom of the NFC North because we don't know how to run a franchise. And I'm at the point where if you want to clean house and fire, from Emery, or not Emery, from,
Fire Emery again.
It might help.
Yeah.
It might help. Just send the message, just publicize
Bring him
it.
back and get rid of him again.
If you want to fire down everybody, that's up to you. I honestly think that John Fox is the one who has to go. I think our offensive coordinator needs to go. Those are the only 2 changes I really see as mandatory at this point. And I want to see them bring in someone who is offensively minded, who can work with young kids. Maybe you take a risk and you go get someone from college.
Josh McDaniels, maybe?
Josh McDaniels has been floated. I want to say someone in the Saints organization as well because of his ties there. There's definitely a number of candidates who could come in here. And you talked a little bit about John Fox kind of falling on deaf ears in the locker room. His message isn't getting across anymore. It's just time. It's sad because the only reference I've got for when that happened is like Andy Reid in Philadelphia, but he's a phenomenal coach. And him leaving was just his message wasn't getting across anymore.
Yeah.
He's still a great coach. It's just
He's had success in Kansas City.
Oh, he's killing it. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL, period. Like, I will fight for that. But it's when you're no longer effective as a head coach, it doesn't matter what your record is. You can't do your job anymore.
And John Fox isn't a good in-game coach either. Like, he makes really questionable decisions on the field, too. Timeout management, the way he challenges his game plan. It's just, there's Mark, do you agree? Do you think John Fox is gone after this year?
I think that John Fox most likely will be fired. I don't necessarily think it's the correct move, only because I think that it's kind of a wash at this point. He hasn't had any time to really do anything. Part of it's his fault, part of it's not his fault. But it's the kind of thing where you can't blame anything. I think you really can't get rid of Ryan Pace because you can't be the team that continues to get recycled GMs.
I'm with you.
In that case. And plus, if you get rid of another GM, you bring in another guy, you're still gonna say, okay, but it's actually the guy above him that's doing all the problems.
But we can't get rid of the McCaskies.
Yeah.
Well, you could get rid of Phillips, but it's not gonna happen. We all thought it would when Emery was gone, in Chicago, but it didn't happen. He was very safe.
That's true.
And so I think Ryan Pace is probably one of the better things this Chicago Bears team has had, as far as hope for a long time. I love Vic Fangio. I would love him to stay as our defense coordinator. I don't want him to be a head coach, but I want him to be where he's at.
A good balance.
And I don't really know, when I look at, unless Hugh Jackson gets fired from Cleveland.
That's not going to happen.
I don't know. 0-16 might make it happen.
They're committing to Hugh Jackson.
I hope so. It's the right thing for them to do. Like, that's the only guy who I would like immediately be like, yep, boom, there he is. Let's go grab that guy. I look at other teams, and there's not really a team out there where I'm like, okay, that offensive coordinator, that defensive coordinator, I really think we need to go grab someone like that. I would love the Tom Coughlin thing that I've hinted at a few times, just because he's the guy who's had that experience, who can come in, but the Chicago Bears aren't in that spot where the roster is win now.
Right.
I think the obvious Jaguar connection's a lot better in that case, because the team is just so much better on paper over there. So I'm really not sure what the Chicago Bears are going to do.
Right. Isn't that a shame? You just don't know anymore right now.
I mean, as part of me feels like, I know we talked about this, Ricky and I, on the onside kick, that part of me just feels maybe Jim Schwartz, because he's done well in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah.
Not amazing, but he's done well enough. And he knows the NFC North. He is a defensive-minded coach. He has attitude issues with his team and himself, but he brings he brings in
maturity level
intensity. Question. He brings attitude. He brings a physical nature that the Chicago Bears defensive roster is built for, but they aren't getting it from John Fox and Vic Fangio necessarily.
We'll see. We'll see. I have. Here's the feeling that I have. I think John Fox should be fired, but I don't think he will be, only because they're going to go give him a pass because of the injuries that he had to deal with, even though it doesn't make any sense to me. You have so much going down with the PD stuff and accountability issues and everything else. I think he should be fired, but I don't think he will, because of the influence he's had on this roster, the way Ryan Pace has been drafting. It's really been the way Fangio and Fox have been working together to construct this defense. So I think he's going to play out the final year of his contract. Then he's done.
They constructed defense of that secondary, which is just impressive.
Right. Guys like Crayvon LeBlanc, Devontae Bisbee are in the secondary. It's just so.
With only 5 games left, I think a big thing is if they.
You got to play
what happens
kids,
now.
Right?
If we beat the 49ers, if we can manage to beat the Lions again, or we squeak one against the Packers. And if anything shows that these guys are playing for John Fox,
he's going to be back.
He'll be back. Yeah. It'll be a Rex Ryan situation where the players are the reason why he stayed in New York for so long. That'll be the thing. If we just lose out from here, it's done. Especially because of the fact that these are 3rd and 4th stringers, essentially, at this point. If they can at least beat somebody, maybe.
Dude, I understand it. I just don't want to buy into it.